few years ago, I received a telephone call from Alaska. A man asked me if I would like to come speak to his group. He said, I'll pay for your airplane ticket, I'll pay for your honorarium, I'll pay for your hotel and your meals. And, he said, I'd like to pay for your wife's airplane ticket to come with you. I'll pay for her meals as well, and I'd also like to pay for 3 extra days for the two of you to tour around our great state. This is how I knew it was the Lord's will for me to go to Alaska. While there, I learned something about animals and something about humans that has forever changed my perspective on what it means to delegate responsibilities to other people so that I could be more effective in getting the job done as a leader without having to do everything myself. It was during the Iditarod, which is the 1,092-mile sled dog race from Anchorage to Nome, Alaska. It's the most phenomenal competition of human or animal endurance anywhere on the planet. I got so excited about seeing the sled dogs and the entire process that I thought, I've got to try this for myself. So I found a guy who lived in the wilderness near Fairbanks, Alaska, who was willing to take me out with the sled dogs. We got out to his remote cabin. He pulled the sled off of his wall. It was essentially a wicker basket with runners on it. Took it outside where his 25 dogs lived in small little huts with chains around their necks anchored deeply into the ground. When the dogs saw the sled, they went berserk. They began to bark, they began to howl, they began to flip over on their backs and wave their legs, and one dog began to lunge against her chain, and she couldn't get it to come off because it's anchored deeply into the ground, and she began to howl and bark and growl and bare her teeth and foam at the mouth, and she's shaking her head all around, and she ran inside her little hut and came out full speed and hit the end of that chain so hard it flipped her upside down, and she got back on her feet and did it again and again, and I saw this man whose name was William harnessing some other dogs up to the sled, and I said, William, I think that dog would like to go with us. He took one look, he said, oh, she can't go, she's injured. I said, yeah, I could see how she could become injured. It didn't stop her, by the way. We were no more than a mile down the trail when we heard this clanking sound. And here she came down the trail, running after us with the chain, the anchor, the whole kit dragging after her. She wanted to go on the ride so badly. I was so amazed by this entire process. We had 8 dogs because, of course, there would be 2 of us on the sled, and they were so tuned in to William's commands that he never spoke to them in above a whisper. Even as we went down the trail, he'd say to them, "Gee," if he wanted them to go right, or "Ha," if he wanted them to go left. And we got back at the end of our ride. I was so exhilarated. I just asked him, I said, William, I got a question for you about, you just spoke to those dogs in a whisper. I said, well, we have a dog that lives at our house, and he's a good dog and all, but if you want him to do something, you have to yell at him. But you never spoke to those dogs in above a whisper. Why is that? I'll never forget what he said to me. He said, these dogs were designed for this. They live for this. And when you are doing what you are designed to do, your master can guide you with a whisper. All of a sudden, I started to get some insight into what God said in Job 12:7. He said, ask the animals, and they will teach you. I learned a lesson from those sled dogs. Their work was cold. It was hard. They had to be put in harnesses, which is surely something that a dog doesn't really want to do. It was going to be work pulling the sled. But they were so thrilled with the possibility that they loved every minute of it. Why? Because it fulfilled their design. And as it fulfilled their design, they were responsive to the voice of their master because they were running on the track that God had designed them to run on. They were doing what they were made to do. They experienced joy even though the work was difficult. As I contemplated that, it changed my whole perspective on leadership. See, I used to think that if I asked one of my followers to do something that was difficult, that I should apologize for that. Oh, I'm so sorry that I'm asking you to do this. It's just so inconvenient, and I understand that, and I really am sorry, and I really want to make this as easy on you as possible. But after meeting those sled dogs, I realized that when we work with folks and they get involved in our vision, that when we do that, we're actually minimizing the opportunity for them to truly participate in the vision and unleash their gifts to truly accomplish something great. I began to realize that sometimes when I call other people to action, even when the work is difficult, I'm actually being used by God to give them an opportunity to do something that will bring tremendous excitement and fulfillment into their lives. And it dramatically changed my whole perception of what it means to be a leader.